Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, Pigskin Addicts, back again with another video. So this is the coordinator candidate that I've kind of been waiting for. I've been waiting to talk about him. I was already going to make a video about him, but just yesterday we seen the news that the Chargers officially put in a request to interview the Bills quarterback coach, Joe Brady. Now, Joe Brady, at least he was, right? I don't know if he is now, but he was a very popular name after, obviously winning the national championship in college with LSU 2019. He was as hot as fish grease. His name was hot. His name was being thrown around a bunch of NFL circles. I think he interviewed for several offensive coordinator positions, and I think he interviewed for a couple head coaching positions as well, too. He was hot. His name was very, very, very hot. Obviously, fast forward now, 4 years later, he's cooled down a lot. And that's something that I want to talk about, as far as him, potentially becoming the new Chargers offensive coordinator. Now, obviously, Joe Brady was the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach for LSU in 2019. We all know about that. We all know about his success there with Joe Burrow. He unlocked that offense. Previously, just the year before then, Joe Burrow was pretty much projected to be a second day draft selection, probably like fourth or fifth round. That was the stuff that I was reading around the time. I think, there's still some of that stuff out there on the internet if you search it out. But a lot of that, most of that was due to LSU and their archaic way of playing offense, right? LSU, they are a very, very, very big college football program. The problem, though, the issue with LSU, they recruit at the same clip that Alabama does. They can recruit with the best of them in college football, but for a very, very, very long time, their approach to offense and offensive football, it's just been trash. It's just been trash. When you look at LSU, when you look at all the talent that has been through that school, at one point they had Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry on the same team, and none of those guys hit 1,000 yards that season, I believe. It was a very, very archaic way to play offense. And, there's a lot of guys who went through that school, who have started in the NFL that weren't really all that great. They just don't play offense the way that everybody else has played offense. Now, they've made changes in the past few years, but Joe Brady was the guy to really bring the NFL concepts to LSU. Before that, it was a lot of ground and pound, running the ball 35, 40 times a game, right? Boring, a very boring watch. Good team, but a boring watch. And Joe Brady was the guy to change that up, right? LSU was going up and down the field. It was crazy. They looked like the greatest show on turf, right? They were just up and down the field. Nobody could stop them. And obviously, they went all the way, won a national championship. Joe Brady brought that there, though. Joe Brady was an assistant coach under Sean Payton in New Orleans, 2017, 2018. So he brought the NFL concepts that he learned from Sean Payton. He brought that there to Baton Rouge. And, obviously it paid off for him. Now, after that, again, I mentioned how hot his name was. He did end up taking an offensive coordinator job with the Carolina Panthers. Now, that did not turn out very well at all. You can blame him if you want to, but the Panthers were just not a well-run organization. They had a new owner. There was a lot of pressure on Joe Brady to do a lot with nothing. Anytime you have Teddy Bridgewater as your starting quarterback, you're not going to look great as an offensive coordinator. You're just not. Teddy Bridgewater is the ultimate backup. He's a guy that can come in and win you a game or two, but when you have to call a 16-game season with Teddy Bridgewater as your quarterback, things are not going to turn out well, and that's exactly what happened, right? Things were not well in Carolina. He only stayed there for a year. Matt Rule fired him after a year. Matt Rule was a mess in Carolina himself as the head coach, so that whole situation was not conducive to success for anybody. So I don't really blame him there. Now, obviously, he went from Carolina to Buffalo. He's the Buffalo Bills quarterback coach now at this point. And, just looking at him, looking at Joe Brady, looking at all of the success that he had early and now that he has cooled down, I like him. I think that he would be able to obviously, do a better job than Joe Lombardi. I think he can really, put some exciting downfield stuff, in the offense with Herbert and the wide receiver weapons. I think he can do all of that. The one thing about Joe Brady, though, is that I am not sure if he can develop a run game because we haven't seen him do it. LSU's run game was complementary to what their passing game was. Joe Burrow was throwing the ball like 60 times a game. So, if you throw the ball that many times, you're throwing for 400 yards and all of that stuff, your run game is going to be okay, right? It's going to be decent. You don't need to develop it. All you need to do is just, have a switch up, call it, and you're going to get 8-9 yard, gains every time in college, right? So that wasn't really, impressive to me, but everybody knows what this Charger team needs. This Charger team needs a strong running game. We've seen the passing game. We've seen the passing game be good. We've seen the passing game be great, even a few times under Joe Lombardi. But it has not really turned out to be something that you can hang your hat on, right? You have to be balanced. And when you just look at a Cincinnati Bengal team, for example, right? Cincinnati, just this past season, they aired it out. They aired it out as much as they could. They have the best trio of wide receivers in the league. That's the way that they played all season long. Zach Taylor, the coach, he knows the strength of that team. He knows the strength of that offense. Airing it out, right? Obviously, getting the ball downfield to your explosive receivers, right? Scoring easy touchdowns, all of that type of stuff. But you see how the Bengals have kind of shifted their philosophy when they got to the playoffs. And it started last year in the playoffs. They've done it again this year in the playoffs. They've shifted their philosophy. So now they can still hit you down the field with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, but they can also run the ball as well, too. Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine are a really, really, really potent 1-2 combo at the running back position, but they can run the ball when they need to run the ball. They just went up to Buffalo, beat them up physically, and ran the ball whenever they needed to do it. So can Joe Brady do that for the Chargers? I don't know. I have no idea, right? I can't say if he can or not. All I can say is that I just haven't seen it yet. So I know what this Charger team needs, right? And it's not, fancy stuff down the field, right? That would be nice and it's great, to talk about, but is it going to win you playoff games? Can you take that on the road and can you win playoff games with it? Conventional wisdom says no, right? There's been a lot of teams who've tried to do that, but we know what wins in the playoffs, right? It's physical, hard-nosed football. That's what wins in the playoffs, and that's what gets you over the hump. So the Chargers, they play what I like to call pretty boy football, right? And I think Joe Brady is a pretty boy offensive coordinator, so he can dial up the stuff that is going to look good. It's going to, go viral. There's going to be highlights on ESPN. But is that stuff going to win you games in January? And I think that is the question with Joe Brady. And to me, it's unproven, right? It's unproven. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't, but it's unproven. So at this point right now, I think the Chargers need somebody who is going to bring that in, right? That is going to be the focus of, everything that they do offensively, right? Being more aggressive, being more physical up front, being able to run the football, and being able to play January type of football. If they're able to do that, then, they're going to have some type of success. But, I think whoever the coordinator is going to have to do that. They're going to have to do that. And for me, Joe Brady just doesn't. We don't know. We don't know. And the place that he's at now, right, being the Bills quarterbacks coach, the Bills don't run the football very well either. So if he has learned something about a run game or whatever, it's not in Buffalo because they don't do that well. Josh Allen is the majority of that run game, right? The Bills' run game is nothing without Josh Allen, and that's not the way the Chargers play. Justin Herbert is not a part of the Chargers' run game. He doesn't really want to be a part of the Chargers' run game. That rib injury really, really did something to him, and I think that he is going to shy away from that stuff now just so he can assure that he's healthy. You can't really count on Justin Herbert being a huge, huge part of the running game. I see a lot of fans talking about that online. You just can't count on that. As he gets older, he doesn't want to take more hits. He wants to take less hits. So when you look at that, when you look at it from that perspective, you need an offensive coordinator that is going to be able to run the ball. And I just don't think Joe Brady can develop a run game because I haven't seen it. I also think that there is a lot to be said about Joe Brady's one hot year. It's kind of like, the Milli Vanilli thing, right? anybody remembers Milli Vanilli, right? You can go and be hot, right? You can be a one-hit wonder, but what is your staying power, right? What do you do well? You're obviously not going to have the 2019 LSU, type of talent when you come to coach the Chargers, right? Chargers have a lot of talent, but they don't have all that much talent, right? They're not just going to go out there and be able to maul people game by game, right? So you're going to have to show what you do well, right? What is your identity as a play caller? What is your identity as an offensive coordinator? And to me, Joe Brady hasn't really been in one spot long enough to develop that. And that is something that I worry about, with a lot of the coordinators who have one really hot year and they don't have anything else to base it off of, right? What did you learn, right? Did you learn any philosophy? What is your identity, right? What do you want your offense to be? Right, outside of your star players, what do you want your offense to be? What does your offense look like outside of your star players, right? What if your star quarterback gets hurt for 2 games? What are you going to do, right? What is your plan? So these are things that I don't know if Joe Brady has really learned. Again, he was a hot candidate in 2019. He's cooled down a lot since then. And, to me, I just don't think that he's the guy for this job, right? I would need to see more of him. I would need to see him, maybe, coordinate an offense for a couple of years, right? If he does that, then he will be a head coaching candidate if he's good at it, right? So I think that's where he's at this point right now. So I think the Chargers are just doing their due diligence. They're interviewing a lot of people. Most of them are young guys, and I would bet a lot of money that the next offensive coordinator will probably be somebody young. Most of these guys that they're interviewing are young. So I hopefully he's just the right young guy. That's really all you can hope for now. And to me, after, the 2019 season with Joe Brady had all that success, he hasn't come close to it at all, and he hasn't come close to showing that he can really shepherd an offense and can really, really get the most out of players and can get the most out of guys who are not the most talented, right? So he just has not shown that to me. So for me, if I was making a decision, I would pass on Joe Brady. I do think he's talented. I do think he has a bright future, but I don't think that he is the guy that the Chargers need at this point right now. So that's just my thoughts and opinions on the Joe Brady thing, the Joe Brady news. But that is all I got for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I really appreciate it. Shout out to all my new subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the button down below and also hit that bell notification as well, too. Don't forget to smash the like button on your way out as well, too. I'll be back again tomorrow with more content. And until next time.